All right, shalom and welcome everyone. Today we're going to go over Enoch, the Slavic Enoch, chapter 2. Right? We're going to go over and see, does it match up with our Bible? Does it fill in those blanks? I believe it does. To me, when we read this, it just fills in some of those spots that you're like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about that? So let's read and let it determine and decide for itself. And I'm putting these on because this is ridiculous. But introduction to the second book of Enoch, the Slavonic edition. As a part of the Enochian literature, the second book of Enoch is included in the Presidio Corpus. Okay? Presidio Spurus or Presidio writings, especially Jewish writings ascribed to various biblical patriarchs and prophets, but composed within approximately 200 years of the birth of Yeshua the Messiah. In 1773, rumors of having surviving copies of the ancient book drew Scottish explorer James Bruce to distant Ethiopia. There he found the first book of Enoch, later another book of Enoch, and then the third book of Enoch, as we see, right? The second book of Enoch was written in the latter half of the first century. The text was preserved only in Slavonic and consequently bears the designation Slavonic Enoch. This text has also been known as the titles of Second Enoch and the Secrets of Enoch. Second Enoch is basically an extension of Genesis 5:23 through 32. Now, the thing about these things is just like the Dead Sea Scrolls, that they are not something new, right? This is not something that adds to or takes away, so to speak. This is a part of the Bible, right? So it's not, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, that's something this is like finding Revelations chapter 27. This is like finding Genesis, as it says, this is finding more of what the scriptures. So in turn, where they took out and they had the Council of Nicaea and they had these 21 different councils and they took these out, to me personally, this shows that, hey, this is what it's talking about. And again, when it matches up, when you read, he went and married these people somewhere, went and married these people where? Where did he marry people? Cain and Abel, right? How did Cain go and marry somebody? Who did he marry? Where did the people come from? To me, it's this that fills in those blanks. It's the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's these types of books. Okay, so let's go on. It has a whole big introduction of what it is, but we're just going to get after it. Chapter 1. There was a wise man and a great craftsman, and Yahweh formed a love for him and received him so that he should see the highest dwellings and be an eyewitness of the wise and great and inconceivable and unchanging realm of Elohim Almighty. Now we know that, right? We know that Yahweh is not a respecter of persons, but we also have to understand he loves whom he loves, he hates whom he hates. He also, it's not favoritism, it's just naturalism, right? If you have a child that loves you and you love him, he loves boating per se, and everybody else hates it, then what's going to happen? If you have a child that loves watching what you love watching, he sits there, it's not favoritism, it's that love, it's that bond. So there's no, people say, well, he can't love somebody more than he loves this one. He can't do this more than he does that. But the truth is, the closer you get to him, the more you're going to be together, right? If you have a relationship, you have a relationship. If you just got a marriage, you just got a marriage. Let's go on. A very wonderful and glorious and bright and manifold vision of the position of Yahweh's servants and of the inaccessible throne of Yahweh and of the degrees and manifestations of the Spirit, the non-physical host, and of the unspeakable ministration for the multitude of the elements, and of the various apparition and singing, and the host of the cherubim, which is beyond description, and of limitless light. At that time he said, when my 165th year was completed, I begat my son Methuselah. After this I lived 200 years and finished all the years of my life, 365 years. On the first day of the month I was in my house alone, and I was resting on my bed and slept. And when I was asleep, great distress came upon me in my heart, and I was weeping, and with my eyes in my sleep. I could not understand what this distress was, or was happening to me. And there appeared to me two very large men, so big that I never saw such a thing on earth. Their faces were shining like the sun, their eyes were like burning light, and from their lips was fire coming out. And they were singing. Their clothing was of various kinds in appearance, and was purple. Their wings were brighter than gold, and their hands whiter than snow. They were standing at the head of my bed, and began to call me by name. And I arose from my sleep and clearly saw the two men standing in front of me. And I greeted them and was seized with fear, and the appearance of my face was changed to terror. And those men said to me, Enoch, have courage and do not fear. The eternal Elohim sent us to you, and you shall ascend today with us into heaven. And you shall tell your sons and all your household and all they that shall do without you on earth in your house, and let no one seek you until Yahweh returns you to them. And I hurried to obey them, and went out of my house, and went to the doors as I was ordered, and summoned my sons Methuselah and Regem and Gilead, and explained to them all the marvels of the men had told me. Listen to me, my children. I do not know where I will go or what will befall of me. So now, my children, I tell you, do not turn from Elohim in the face of that which is empty or prideful, which did not make heaven and earth, for these shall perish along with those who worship them. And may Yahweh make your hearts confident in the fear and respect for him. And now, my children, let no one consider seeking me until Yahweh returns me to you. And it came to pass, when Enoch had finished speaking to his sons, that the angels took him on their wings and lifted him up to the first heaven, and placed him on the clouds. The first what? The first Shelim. And there I, Enoch, looked, and again, and I looked higher, and saw the ether. And they placed me on the first heaven, and showed me a very large sea, bigger than the earthly sea. Corinthians 12:22 is another reference. They brought the elders and rulers and the stellar orders in front of me, and showed me 200 angels who rule the stars and services of the stars to the heavens, and fly with their wings, and come around all those who sail. So all those who sail, all those in the ocean, all those who are using the stars, guess what? Here we go, right? And here I looked down and saw the storehouses of snow, and the angels who kept their amazing storehouses in clouds, where they came out of and into which they go. They showed me the storehouse of the dew, like olive oil in its appearance, and its form as of the flowers of the earth. And they also showed me many angels guarding the storehouses of these things, and how they are made to shut up and to open. So they are told when to shut up and when to open. This is all a process. It ain't like we're taught that it's just random. It randomly snows, and it snows so much. This, supposedly, according to this, is all measured. It's all something that happens by the will of Yahweh. And those men took and led me up on the second heaven, and showed me darkness, greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched and guarded, awaiting the great limitless judgment. And the spirits were dark in appearance, more than the earthly darkness, and perpetual weeping through all hours. And I said to the men who were with me, why are these being unceasingly tortured? They answered me, these are Elohim's apostates, who did not obey Elohim's commands, but took counsel with their own will, and turned away with their prince, who is also held captive in the fifth heaven. And I felt great pity for them. And they greeted me and said to me, Man of God, pray to Yahweh for us. And I answered them, I am just a mortal man. Who am I that I should pray for spirits? Who knows where I go or what will become of me? Or who will pray for me? Right? Who's going to pray for me in this matter? Get myself in trouble. And those men took me from there and led me up on the third heaven and placed me there. And I looked and saw what this place produces, and that it was so good and such as never been known. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and I saw their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and I saw all the foods that came from them, and the food that was bubbling with fragrant vapors. And in the middle of the trees was the tree of life, in that place where Yahweh rests when he goes up and into paradise. And this tree is of indescribable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than anything existing. And all sides of its form were golden and brilliant, red and firelike. And it was completely covered, and it produced all fruits. Revelation 22:2. That's our reference. Its root is in the garden of the earth's end, and paradise resides between spiritual and physical. And the two springs come out, which send forth milk and honey. And their springs send forth oil and wine. And they separate into four parts and flow quietly around and go down into the paradise of Eden, between the mutual and the eternal. See Genesis 2:11-14. And there they go forth along the earth and have a circular flow, even as other elements. And there is no unfruitful tree there, and every place is blessed. 300 angels, which are very bright, are there to keep the garden, and with incessant sweet singing with voices which are never silent serve Yahweh throughout all the hours of the days. And I said, How very sweet is this place. And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense, from those who expirate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity, and make righteous judgment, and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help injured orphans, and who walk without faith before the face of Yahweh. Walk without fault. I figured, yeah. And walk without fault before the face of Yahweh. And serve him alone, and for them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance. Now see, if this was a doctrine, if this is what we had instead of what we hear and see at funeral dates and times, right? Ecclesiastes 7 says, better is one's death than one's birth. So obviously, the way the Creator sees this is we are not in pain. We're not in, and if we could just glimpse of what this is saying, could you imagine going to this place where everything smells so great? I mean, we're into perfumes, we're into this, we're into that, right? But could you imagine our very food, the aroma from it, the just being in a place like that? Can you imagine going outside and everything smells good? And the closer you get to these trees, the more you get to your food, the better it smells. Wow, right? And those two men led me up from the northern side and showed me there a very terrible place. And there were every kind of tortures in that place, cruel darkness and gloom. What's that song? Gloom, despair, agony, oh, right? And there was absolutely no light at all there, but murky fire constantly flaming above. And there is a fiery river coming out, and everywhere in that entire place is fire, and everywhere there is frost and ice. thirst and shivering, while the physical restraints are very cruel. And the spirits were fearsome and merciless, bearing angry weapons, torturing without mercy. And I said, Whoa, whoa, this place is so terrible. And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor Elohim, who on earth practice sin against nature, which is sodomy of a child, corruption of children, performing magic, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lying, slander, envy, resentment, fornication, murder, and who are accursed and steal the souls of men, and those who see the poor and steal and take away their goods, so they grow rich, and injure them for other men's goods. And this is reserved for those to satisfy their own emptiness made in the hungering die, those who clothe themselves with striping and stripping the naked, and who did not know their creature, who did not know their creator, but instead bowed to lifeless gods and have no soul, who cannot see nor hear, who are empty, who are built carved images and bowed down to them, to unclean, fashionable, and useless gods. This place is prepared for those as an eternal inheritance. Wow. That's a whole sermon, right? Those men took me and led me up to the fourth heaven and showed me the entire succession of activities and all the rays of the light of the sun and the moon. And I measured their progression and compared their light and saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. Its circle and the wheels on which it goes is like the wind, passing with very amazing speed and with no rest day or night. It ingresses and egresses are accompanied by 4 huge stars, and each star has 1,000 stars under it. To the right of the sun's wheel, there are 400 stars, and to the left are 4,000. And altogether 8,000 going out with the sun continually. And by day 15 groups of 10,000 angels attended, and by night there were 1,000. And 6 winged ones go forth with angels before the sun's wheel into the fiery flames, and 100 angels kindle the sun and set it alight. And I looked and saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names are phoenixes and chalodri, which are marvelous and wonderful, with feet and tails of a lion and a crocodile's head. They appear to be purple in color, like that in the rainbow. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings are like those of angels. Each has 12 wings, and they attend and accompany the sun, bearing heat and dew, as it is ordered of them from Elohim. So again, all these things are ordered from the Creator. Now here we go. The word chakradai means, it appears that the Slavonic translation rendered the Hebrew word seprium. Okay? So we have to just throw little things in here. This is how the sun revolves and goes and rises under the heaven, and how its course goes under the earth and into the light and the rays continually. So this would be another great reason why this would be taken out, because we're told the sun is 93 million miles away. We're told the sun gives out sun flares. We're told all these things of the sun, but this here has a whole different story to the sun. That it's being carried by a chariot, that there's angels, that all this, right? Then those men carried me away to the east and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun has egress according to the seasons and the circuits, and its regulations and the months of the whole year, of the number of the hours of the day and the night, And I saw 6 gates open, each gate having 1 stadia, 185 meters, and a quarter of 1 stadium, 46.25 meters. And I measured them accurately, and I knew their size. Through the gates the sun goes out and goes to the west, and is made even, and rises throughout all the months, and turns back again from the 6 gates according to the succession of the sessions. In this way, the period of the entire year is finished after the return of the 4 seasons. So this is saying, and even measuring the sun, where it's going, how it's coming out. With the quarter day added, this is the length of the leap year. All right, chapter 14. And again, those men led me away to the western parts and showed me 6 great open gates corresponding to the eastern gates, opposite to where the sun sets, according to the number of the days, 365 and a quarter. Notice this is a solar calendar, the same length as our modern calendar. Now this is different than the Enoch, right? So we're just reading it. The thing about all these things is, what I tell people is, if this has been taken out, then you know it can be added to, right? So if this has been taken out, whatever this version is, and that's why we're going over it, what does it say and what isn't, what is, right? So it matches up with scripture. It adds to, not really adds to, but it adds to the scripture of what we're missing, which is basically just fulfilling or just putting in. Get it? Fulfill. But, and again it goes down to the western gates and diminishes and pulls its light to the prominent brightness under the earth. The crown of its glory is in heaven with Yahweh, and it is guarded by 400 angels, while the sun goes around on a wheel under the earth. And it stands 7 great hours a night and spins half its course under the earth. And when it comes to the eastern approach in the 8th hour of the night, it brings its lights and the crown of glory, and the sun burns its flames outwardly more than fire. And the elements of the sun, called phoenixes and chakradai, break into song. Therefore every bird flutters its wings, rejoicing at the glimmer of light. And they break into song at the command of Yahweh. Kadosh, holy, holy, holy. Could this be what the birds are saying? Could this be why we hear them singing? The giver of light comes to illuminate the entire world, and the morning guard takes shape, which is the rays of the sun, and the sun of the earth goes out and receives its luminance to light up the entire face of the earth. And they showed me this calculation of the sun's going. And the great gates which enters into are the calculation of the hours of the year. For this reason the sun is a great creation, whose circuit lasts 28 years and begins again from the beginning. We have a note here. February, which is a leap year, to fall on a particular weekday, there is 28 days. 2 times 14-year cycle. This forms a type of perpetual calendar. And again, we're just reading, we're saying information, right? Those men showed me the great course of the moon. There are 12 great gates that are crowned from west to east, by which the moon comes and goes in its customary times. It goes in at the first gate to the western places of the sun by the first gates with 31 days exactly, and by the second gates with 31 days exactly, and by the third with 30 days exactly, by the fourth with 30 days exactly, and by the fifth with 31 days exactly, by the sixth, which are 31 days exactly, by the seventh, which are 30 days exactly, by the eighth with 31 days perfectly, by the ninth, 31 days exactly, and by the 10th with 30 days perfectly, by the 11th with 31 days exactly, and by the 12th with 38 days exactly. I'm sorry. by the 12th, with 28 days exactly. The sum of the days total 365, with the year beginning in March. Again, we're reading. We're not making calendar just yet. And it goes through the western gates in the order and number of the western and accomplished the 365 and a quarter days of the solar year, while the lunar year has 364 days. And there were 12 days lacking of the solar circle, which are the lunar aspects of the whole year. The number of days by which the solar year differs from the lunar year, the number of days into the moon's phase cycle at the beginning of the solar year. The origin in the mid-16th century, denoting the age of the moon in the days of the beginning of the calendar year, from the French epecte via Latin, from Greek hemore, intercalculated days. The Great Circle also contains 532 years. Now we have a note. The 532-year cycle is calculated from the creation of Adam, which we know took place on Friday, March 1st, 5508 BC, which is the base date at which the entire calendar system of the Orthodox Church is founded. The cycles are laid out in the final sections of the Timkium, which is the book of the dictates and the services, and the Patristian calendar sections. These are the tables reflecting the 532-year cycle of the Church of Services, which consists of 19 year solar cycles multiplied by 28-day lunar cycles. This is a table that consists of 19 columns by 28 rows, giving the Pascal key number or letter for each of the years of the 532-year cycle. Once you know the Pascal key, you look up the details in the following section, which consists of 35 brief calendar synopses, one of each possible day that Pascal can fall. Each of these synopses actually consists of two services, one for regular years and one for leap years. Again, just reading and going with what it says, do your research, look into it if you want to. If you want to comment or say something about it, I can put that down or get this more to you. So there's a lot of information. There's a lot of references, if you will. But to me, that shows more of a proof of, if I say, hey, go do this, and I have references, if I just say, hey, it's my opinion or that's what I think, see what I'm saying? I think the more references, the more that we can have, the better off it is, the more that it's legit, so to speak. The quarter of a day is omitted for 3 years, and the fourth fulfills it exactly. Because of this, they are taken outside of heaven for 3 years and are not added to the number of days because they change the time of the years. And the 2 months toward completion and 2 others toward the decrease. And when the course through the western gates is finished, it returns and goes to the eastern to the lights, and goes this way day and night in its heavenly circles, below all circles, swifter than the heavenly winds, and spirits and elements and flying angels. An angel has 6 wings. In 19 years, it travels the course 7 times. So this is what we come up with, right? This is what the scriptures or the book is telling us of what these things are, right? In the midst of the heavens, I saw armed soldiers serving Yahweh with drums and organs and constant voice, and with sweet voice, and with sweet and unceasing voice and various singing, which is impossible to describe. Wow. And which astonishes every mind. So wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those angels. And I was delighted just listening to them. The men took me on to the 5th heaven and placed me there. And there I saw many and countless soldiers called Gorgi, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants. and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual. And there was no service on the fifth heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, why are they so withered, and their faces so melancholy, and their mouths so silent? And why is there no service in this heaven? And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Sanatel rejected Yahweh of light. And those who are there, are held in great darkness in the second heaven. And 3 of them went down onto the earth from Yahweh's throne to the place of Hermon, and broke through their vows, and on the shoulder of the hill of Hermon, and saw the daughters of men, and how good they are, and took them themselves as wives, and fouled the earth with their deeds, and broke the law, and mixing with the women. And giants were born, and amazingly large men with great hatred. The hill of Hermon could be Mount Hermon, which is mentioned over a dozen times in the Bible. And therefore Elohim judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on Yahweh's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren in their works and their great torments, and I prayed for them. But Yahweh has condemned them to be under earth until the heavens and earth shall end forever. And I said, why do you stand there, brethren, and do not serve Yahweh and his face, and have not put your services before Yahweh's face? You could anger Yahweh completely. And they listened to my advice and spoke to the 4 ranks in heaven. And I stood with those 2 men, for a trumpet sounded together with a loud voice, and the Grigori broke into song with one voice. And their voice went up before Yahweh pitifully and touchingly. From there those men took me and lifted me up to the 6th heaven, and there I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun shining, glistening. And there's no difference in their faces or behavior or manner of dress. And these make the orders and learn goings of the stars, and the alteration of the moon, and the revelations of the sun, and the good administration of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instructions, and make sweet and loud singing and all songs of praise. And these are the archangels who are above angels, and they measure all life in heaven and on earth. And the angels who are appointed over seasons and years, and angels who are over rivers and seas, and who are over the fruits of the earth, and the angels who are over every grass, giving food to every and all living things, and the angels who write down all the souls of men, and all their deeds, and all their lives before Yahweh's face. In their midst are 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, 6 winged ones, continually singing with one voice. And it is not possible to describe their singing. And they rejoice before Yahweh at his footstool. Could you just imagine of all this singing and how this wonderful, beautiful this would be? You know, we like to hear music, right? We like to sing when we go and I mean, just imagine of the wonderful time. I think that's another missing bad thing that we just look over. We forget of how a wonderful he knows how to please us, right? I mean, he knows, and it ain't about us being pleased, so to speak, but he knows how to impress us, how to bless us. So if we go to a place where music and singing and all these wonderful, the food itself smells good. I mean, think of all this, right? What a wonderful place, as opposed to, well, when you die, you go to heaven. Well, when you die, you do this, or when you, and something we're looking forward to. I just can't imagine to going to a place where even the trees smell good. The to look upon the fruit, to look upon the food, to look upon other things is a wonderful thing. But could we remember? Could this be truth will we be able to see, but our minds won't be like they are today. I know for most of us, and I say most of us, if we've seen people in this condition, if we've seen angels in this condition, just like he's saying, whoa, but it's not painful. But if we've seen maybe ancestors, that would be a painful thing. So will we have a mind of Yahweh? Will we have a different conscience of, well, a judgmental that, you can't do today, but a judgmental, well, they didn't follow Yahweh, just like he told them there. Please Yahweh, pray to Yahweh, sing to Yahweh, uplift Yahweh in his holy name, right? I mean, let's go on. And those two men lifted me up from there on the seventh heaven, and I saw there a very great light, and fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces and dominions and orders and governments, cherubim and Sephirim, thrones and many-eyed ones, 9 regiments, the lonet stations of light. And I became afraid and began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me and led me after them and said to me, have courage, Enoch, do not fear, and showed me Yahweh from afar, sitting on his very high throne, from what is there on the 10th heaven, since Yahweh dwells there. And on the 10th heaven is Yahweh. In the Hebrew tongue, he is called, it's got Arvaht. The meaning of lonet is not clear. However, it may be derived from the transliteration of the name John. John means Yahweh is gracious. The meaning of the word we spelled is equivocally unclear, but it seems to mean the Father of creation. Each level of heaven represents or demonstrates a personal or a part of the Godhead. One of the highest demonstrations of Elohim's power and divinity is the power of creation. It is found in the 10th level of heaven. And all the heavenly soldiers would come and stand on the 10 steps according to the rank, and would bow down to Yahweh, and would then return to their places in joy and bliss, singing songs in the unlimited light, with soft and gentle voices, gloriously serving him. A note, strong and fierce soldiers sang with soft, gentle voices, bowing and serving in bliss. Exactly. These fierce soldiers, these fierce things that could probably rip anything apart, are coming with gentle voices and bowing and serving Yahweh. And the cherubim and the Sephirim standing around the throne, and the 6-winged and many-eyed ones, they do not depart, standing before Yahweh's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, saying with gentle voices before Yahweh's face, Kadosh, 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 Lord, ruler of the Sabaoth, host of the army of the heavens, host of the heavens and the earth, full of your glory. When I saw all these things, the men said to me, Enoch, this, for we are commanded to journey with you. And those men went away from me, and after I did not see them. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, woe is me! What has befallen me? And Yahweh sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel, and he said to me, have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise before Yahweh's face into eternity. Arise and come with me. And I answered him and said within myself, my Yahweh, my soul had departed from me due to the terror and trembling. And I called to the men who led me up to this place and relied on them. And it is with them that I go before Yahweh's face. Note, it is noted that when speaking to Elohim, Enoch said within himself, he did not have to speak aloud. He did it within himself. He did not speak. And Gabriel lifted me up like a leaf caught up by the wind, and he placed me before Yahweh's face. And I saw the eighth heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Mazaloth, the changer of the seasons, and of drought, and of wet, and of 12 constellations in the circle of the firmament, which are above the seventh heaven. And I saw the ninth heaven, which is called the Hebrew Kavaklium, which are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. And on the 10th heaven, which is called Avaloth, I saw the appearance of Yahweh's face like an iron made to glow in the fire, and it shone forth and cast out emitting sparks, and it burned. One possible meaning of the Avaloth is 3 times holy, or Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. In a moment of eternity, I saw Yahweh's face. But Yahweh's face was undescribable, marvelous, and very amazing, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell Yahweh's speaking being of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the amount of his instructions and the variety of his voices. And Yahweh's throne is very great and not made with hands. And I cannot tell the number of those standing around him. There were troops of cherubim, and they sang unceasingly. I cannot tell of his unchanging beauty. Who shall tell of the unpronounceable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed to Yahweh. And Yahweh with his lips said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity. Stand before me in my face in eternity. Stand before my eternal face. Enoch is out of his above time and space. Eternity is now, and he can feel the timeless and where he is. This language struggles to even convey the facts. This language struggles to convey what he's seeing. Only in his mind and only in him can he even convey or fathom what is going on. Imagine that. Just like we see, no one can see him and live. No one can, but this is eternity, right? So that would match up. It wouldn't contradict. He's saying eternity. And I believe we're all going to see, I believe we're all going to know these things, right? Not saying this is all truth facts, but I'm saying when we get into eternity, I don't think we'll just be sitting in one chair. I don't think will be it, right? I mean, matter of fact, this ain't even got nothing to do with that eternity, right? We will no longer be teachers. We'll have the great teacher. And if we have all this, I mean, what it's saying, hey, what is this? And they're showing us. They're not telling us. The angels are not telling, hey, Enoch, check this out. This is the way it is. Hey, Enoch, they're bringing Enoch to these things, and Enoch is telling us. Why? What a wonderful thing to know. I believe, my opinion, I would submit to you that Yahweh wants us to know these great, wonderful things, not just everything's blah, blah, boo, boo, you're going to die, and right? What incentive is that? Hey, everybody, come and work for me, and by the way, you're just going to die, and that's going to be that. Or, guess what? If you don't do what I say, there's eternal punishment. But if you do what I tell you to do, there's eternal, beautiful, righteous things for you. Let's go on. And the archangel Michael lifted me up and led me to Yahweh's face. And Yahweh said to his servants, testing them, Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity. And the glorious ones bowed down to Yahweh and said, Let Enoch go according to your word. And Yahweh said to Michael, Go and take Enoch and remove his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into my garments and to my glory. And Michael did as Yahweh told him. And he anointed me and dressed me and appeared of that ointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's ray. I looked at myself, and I was transformed into one glorious one. Wow. Could you imagine? Could this be what happens to us, right? The number of symbolism of 10 is that of the new starts at a higher level, new beginnings and a new recreation. And Yahweh summoned one of his archangels, whose name is Praviel, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels who wrote all the deeds of Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Praviel, bring out the books from my storehouses, and a reed of quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver it to him, the best and comfortable books out of your hand. Enoch is now like an angel. He now can access to the heavenly records and to the understanding of the knowledge of heaven. A reed was used in writing much like a quill was used, or a pencil or a pen of today. He was explaining to me all the works of the heaven, of earth and sea, and all the elements and their passages and goings, and the sounding of the thunders, and the sun and the moon, and the progression and the changes of the stars, the seasons, the years, the days, the hours, as well as the risings of the wind, the numbers of the angels, and the formation of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song, and life, and commandments, instructions, sweet voiced sayings, and all things that are fitting to learn. And Praviel told me, all the things I have told you, you have written. Set and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. And he said, all the souls are prepared for eternity before the formation of the world. And for both 30 days and 30 nights. And I wrote out all the things exactly, and wrote 366 books. If all things were created in 6 days, then the souls of all the people were created at that time. In Jewish mythology, the place that the souls were housed until birth was called the Gulf. Each soul was created for a certain place, a time, and a destiny. According to one version of the myth, when the gulf or the gulp is emptied of the souls, time ceases. In another version, when the last soul dies and returns to Elohim, time will end. Enoch wrote 366 books in a 720-hour period, containing the information of all things, including all souls, who are prepared for eternity before the formation of the world. Wow. So it's saying right here, Yahweh knows, right? It's all said and done in an aspect. He knows whether you're going to make it in or you're not. He knows where you're going, all these things from the beginning, which makes sense if you're the all-knowing, all-created one. It makes sense to me that he has these as incentives. These books, these places, the Bible, the instructions, everything that we have are an incentive to me that I would submit to you. Why would this be? What does this matter? Does your salvation, I think some people's might, maybe not you, mine, somebody else's, but then again, if something happens in your life, what do you go to? What do you say? I know many people that say, well, they don't believe in God or they don't understand. And they don't understand is the reason why they don't believe, right? Well, I don't understand how this person could die. I don't understand why this would happen. I don't understand how the sun and moon, I don't understand. So I would submit to you that because of lack of knowledge, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, is why they don't believe. If you know me, you believe in me, right? Hopefully, right? If you know me, you believe in me. You have faith. I have your best interest. If your husband, spouse know you, they should believe in you. If you have a spouse you don't believe in or you're scared of, please get away from them. But that's the way a lot of this works. Sadly, people are with people for love's sake or for security purposes or whatever. But how can you have security if you're getting beat up? How can you have security if you know the ending is demise? So what I'm trying to say is This I believe because it is an incentive. This makes me happy. This makes me know I'm not sitting on a cloud with some harp for eternity. Or I'm not in a dirt nap time for eternity. You might prefer the dirt nap, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would prefer that as opposed to what we're hearing here, but let's go on. And Yahweh summoned me and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel. Notice on my left because what's the right? And I bowed down to Yahweh, and Yahweh spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all that you see, and all the things that are standing, and all the things that are finished, I tell you, even before the very beginning, I created all things from nothing. I created visible. I created physical. I created things from the indivisible, the spiritual world. Hear, Enoch, and take into my words. For I have not told my angels my secret. I have not told them in the rising and the beginnings, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell you today. For before all things were visible and physical, I alone used to go about in the invisible, spiritual things, like the sun from the east to the west, and from the west to the east. But evening, the sun was peace into itself. Why, I found no peace, because I was creating all things, and I conceived the thought of placing foundations and of creating the visible, physical creation. All right, the first heaven, Enoch arrives on angels' wings. There are storehouses of snow and dew. Second heaven, Enoch finds a group of fallen angels. There is darkness and torture. Third heaven, there are sweet flowers, trees, and fruit. The fourth heaven, there are soldiers, heaven's army, and the progression of the sun and the moon. The fifth heaven, the leaders of the fallen angels, the Gregorii. The Greek Gregorii means Miriam, the Hebrew word for watchers. 3 of them went down and had intercourse with the daughters of men, yielding giants who became the source of enmity on earth. The sixth heaven, 7 bands of angels and the ordering of the stars. The seventh heaven shows something unusual happening to Enoch when Gabriel puts Enoch in front of the throne of Yahweh. The 8th and 9th and 10th heavens are thought to be later additions and not part of the original text. The 8th is Missoula, the 9th is Kophiam, and the 10th is Arath. Enoch sees the appearance of Yahweh's face, but describes it as indescribable. Previel, the archangel, is commanded to write down the secret information about astrology, climate, and language and give it to Enoch. In other Enochian writings, the same angel, also spelled Pinim, is criticized for teaching humans to write. Chapter 25, and I commanded in the very lowest parts that the visible physical thing should come down from the invisible, from the spiritual realm. And it came down in a very great, and I beheld, and he had a belly of great light, Adoli. And I said to him, Become undone, Adoli, and let the visible physical universe come out of you. And he came undone, and the great light came out, and I was in the midst of the great light. And it was there born light from light. There came forth a great age, an eon, in a space and time, and showed all creation which I had thought to create. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne, and I took my seat on it, and said to the light, Go up higher from here, and station yourself high above the throne, and be a foundation to the highest things. And above the light there is nothing else. And then I rose up and looked up from my throne. Beginning with chapters 25-26, the book of Enoch takes a rather Gnostic diversion. Gnostics were a Christian sect that flourished around the 3rd century. The Gnostics' view of the Godhead borrowed heavily from the creation of the saga of the perched Plato from 426 BC to 348 BC. The story of Al-Dadah and the emanation of the pure light from Yahweh, which brings about creation of the physical world. It's similar to the Gnostic works. The Gnostic teaches that the beginning in a supreme being called the Father, the vine of all, and all the origin and all the supreme God, are the fullness emanated of the element of existence, both physical and visible and indivisible. His intent was not to create, but just as light emanates from a flame, so did creation shine forth from Yahweh. This manifestation, the primal element needed for creation. This was the creation of Barbael, who was the thought of Elohim. The Father's thought performed a deed and was created from it, who appeared before him in the shining of its light. This is the first power which was before all them and which was created from his mind. She is the thought of all, and her light shines like his light. It is the perfect power which is the visage of the indivisible. She is pure, undefiled spirit who's perfect. She is the first power. Adolel has that placed in this myth. Now, take with that what you will, right? But it's all a part of here and all a part of what we're going over. It could be said that Barbael was created in a malleation, and the divine all is both male and female. It was agreement of Barbael and the divine all, representing the union of male and female, that created the Christ spirit of all the aeons. In some renderings of the word aeon is used to designate the ethereal realm or kingdom. In other versions, aeon indicates the ruler of the realm. The aeon of this world mercifully reflects the aeons of eternity and the realms. The reflection is always inferior to the real. In several Gnostic cosmologies, the living world is under the control of the entities called aliens, and of Sophia, which is the head. And it means the aeons and the influence are control of the soul, the life, or the force, the intelligence, the thought, and the mind of the control of the mechanical and ignorant world is given to archeons. So again, this is all just information, and the reason I'm reading it because you're going to find this out anyway, and you should know these things. And whether you agree or disagree, you should be able to have something to back that up, right? The Archeons were created by Sophia. Sophia, probably out of pride, tried to emulate the creation of the force of God by creating an image of herself, meaning she wanted to produce an offspring without either consort or the approval of her father. And as alien, she died. What she did have the power to do so, but she wasn't perfect like the Great Spirit or the Father, the two perfect aliens, Barbael and Osterdenes. Nevertheless, in her arrogance, she attempted to create the failed. She was horrified when she saw her creation imperfect, brutish creature with a lion-faced serpent with eyes of fire, whom she called Jabadaf. So, these are all things, again, to look up, to go over, to see, and information, right? We're just reading what it says. We're not going to take sides here and say yay or nay to unless we feel led to, right? So let's go on. Sophia casting her offspring out of the heaven and hid her child within a thick cloud from her other aeons. Because of her embarrassment and shame, was the first archeon or ruler, and he stowed his mother's power so that she wasn't able to escape from the cloud. Despite gaining Sophia's onionic power, he was weak but prideful, ambitious in power, and hungry. These are all in between there, right? In between what we're reading. So could this be what's going on or what went on or what's the happenings? I mean, assuredly, we can see that angels and other beings can do bad things. They can do dumb things. They can get kicked out of heaven. We see that. We can't be, I guess, so naive to think that it was only Hasatan, it was only Lucifer, that he's the only one, because now we see other ones that went down and took wives. We see the fallen, we see Mount Huron, all these things, right? So we can see, I believe, what I would submit to you is even in heavenly realm, even the next, we can mess up and they can mess up, right? It's not that concept of now we're perfect, now we can never do wrong is kind of blotted here, right? It's kind of like, well, wait a minute. Um, Even the angels mess up, even other things. And so I think that's what this is all about. Our instructions, our Torah, our time. If we can't do it here, when can we do it? I think we get a misconception of, well, we're going to do it all up there. Well, if you don't have any heart to do it now, why would you have any heart to do it there? I think that's the whole thing of Lucifer, right? The whole thing of what we're reading in some aspects. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. All the persuasion in the world doesn't make it a good apple, right? It's a good apple. Look at this side. Eat this side. This side's a great apple. The other side's rotten and molded and got worms in it. It is what it is. He has made us the way he has made us. He has put together what he has put together, and it's all for his glory. If we don't like it, maybe we just don't understand it or we're on the wrong team. But I would submit many people don't like it because they don't understand good and evil. They don't understand what they're throwing away, right? It's just like a marriage. You ever seen someone married or be in a relationship and they don't realize until adultery comes, they threw away the wife that was perfection, the trophy wife, if you will. I've seen it. People have almost trophy wives and end up messing around on them and getting rid of them because they messed up. Well, this is eternity, right? Let's go on. And I summoned the very lowest a second time and said, let Archas come forth hard. And he came forth hard from the indivisible spirits. And Archas came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, be open, Archas, and let there be born from you. And he came apart, and an age came forth very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, go down below, and make yourself solid, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and stationed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things. And below the darkness, there is nothing else. Note, hard and heavy comes from the terms gravid or pregnant, with birth, being intimate. Archers could evaluate and equate to the archeons. Also I commanded that there should be taken from light and darkness, and I said, be thick, and it became thick, and I spread it out with the light, and it became water, and I spread it out over the darkness below the light. And then I made firm the waters, and this is to say to the bottomless abyss. I made foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and made the water like crystal, wet and dry, so it was like grass. And the circles were around the waters and the other elements, and I showed each one of them its path. And the 7 stars, each one of them its own heaven, that they go the correct way. And I saw that it was good. And I made separations between light and darkness in the midst of the water, here and there. And I said to the light that it should be dry, and it should be day, and to the darkness, that it should be day, and to the darkness that it should be night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. Creation, right? The foundation of light around the water is like a crystal, is likely a reference to the sky. One belief at the time of writing was that the sky was an expanse of water like an endless sea. And then I made the firm, the heavenly circle, and made the lower water which is under the heaven collect itself together into one whole piece, that the chaos became dry, and it became so. Out of the waves I created hard and large rock, and from the rock I piled up the dry land, and the dry land I called earth, and the middle of the earth I called abyss, or the bottomless. And I collected the sea into one place and bound it together with a yoke. Note, this is a bank or a shoreline. And I said to the sea, behold, I give you eternal limits, and you shall not break loose from your eternal parts. Thus I made the firmament hold together. This day I called the first created. This I called the first day of creation. Sunday, the first day. And for all the heavenly soldiers I made them the image and the essence of fire. And my eye looked upon the very hard, firm rock, and from the gleam of my eye the lightning and received its wonderful nature, which is both fire and water and fire. And the one does not put out the other, nor does the one dry up the other. Therefore the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than water, and firmer than the hard rock. Note, if the sky is made of water and lightning, which is fire, issues from the sky, then water and fire must exist together in a heavenly form. And from the rock I cut off a great fire, and from the fire I created the orders of the incorporeal, the spiritual, the non-physical. 10 troops of angels, and their weapons are fiery, and their raiment is burning in flame. And I commanded that each one should stand in his order. And one from out of the order of angels, having violated the command, he was given, conceived an impossible thought, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, so that he might become equal in rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height of the angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless abyss. Notice, we assume the ends of the second day, although it is not mentioned. On the third day I commanded the earth to make and grow great and fruitful trees and hills, and seeds to sow, and planted paradise, and enclosed it, and placed armed guards in the form of my flaming angels. And in its way I created renewal. Then came evening and morning, and the fourth day. On Wednesday, the fourth day, I commanded that there should be great lights on the heavenly circles. On the first uppermost circle, I placed the stars, Cronus. On the second, Aphrodite. On the third, Aries. On the fifth, Zealous. On the sixth, Hermes. On the seventh, the lesser moon, and adorned it with the lesser stars. And on the lower parts I placed the sun of the illumination of the day, and the moon and the stars for the illumination of night. And I set the sun that it should go according to each of the 12 constellations. And I appointed the succession of the months and their names and their lives, their thundering and how they marked the hours and how they should be preceded. Then evening came and morning on the fifth day. On Thursday, the fifth day, I commanded the sea that it should bring forth fishes and feathered birds of many varieties, and all animals creeping over the earth, going forth over the earth, of 4 legs, and soaring in the air, of male and female sex, and every soul breathing the spirit of life. And there came evening, and there came morning, the 6th day. On the Friday, the 6th day, I commanded my wisdom to create man from 7 constant applications. 1, his flesh from the earth. 2, his blood from the dew. 3, his eyes from the sun. 4, his bones from stone. 5, his intelligence from the swiftness of the angels and the cloud. 6, his veins and his hair from the grass of the earth. 7, his soul from my breath and from the wind. Wow. From the grass of the earth. And I gave him 7 natures to the flesh, hearing, the eyes of the sight to the soul, smell, veins for touch, the blood for taste, the bones for endurance, to the intelligence enjoyment. I created a saying, a speech from knowledge. I created man from spiritual and physical nature. From both come his death and life and appearance. He knows speech like some created thing. He is small in greatness and great in smallness. And I placed him on the earth like a second angel to be honorable, great, and glorious. And I appointed him as a ruler to rule on the earth and to have my wisdom. And there was none like him on this earth in all my existing creatures. And I appointed him a name made from the 4 components, from east, from west, from south, and from the north. And I appointed for him 4 special stars, and I called his name Adam, and showed him 2 ways, the light and the darkness. And I told him, this is good, and that is bad, so that I should learn whether he has love towards me or hatred, and so that he would be clear whom his race loves me. The Hebrew word Adam means man. For I have seen his nature, but he has not seen my own nature, and therefore by not seeing in it will he sin worse. And I said, after sin, is there nothing put to death? And I put to sleep into him, and he fell asleep. And I took from him a rib and created him a wife, so that the death should come to him by his wife. And so I took his last word and called her name Mother, and that is to be, and to say, Eve. Adam and his life on earth, and I created a garden and in the east, so that he should observe the testament and keep the command. And I made the heavens open to him, so that he would see the angels singing in song and victory in the light without shadow. So, just throwing this in there real quick, he made Adam, right? Just throwing it out there. He made Adam and he seen Adam wouldn't sin. So then he had to make Eve, because it says here, for I have seen his nature, but he has not seen his own nature. And therefore by not seeing it, it will sin worse. And I said, after sin, there is nothing but death. And I put to sleep Adam. So just in my mind, maybe it's just me, correct me if I'm wrong, if you will, but in my mind, it's saying that Adam would not have sinned without Eve. So he made Eve not particularly to sin, but he made Eve for a purpose, if you will. And he was continuously in paradise, and the devil understood that I wanted to create another world because Adam was Lord in earth to rule and control it. The devil is the evil spirit of the lower places. He made himself a fugitive from the heavens, as the devil in his name was Satan. Thus he became different from the angels, but his nature did not change. His intelligence, as it applied to the understanding of the righteous and sinful things, and he understood in his condemnation and the sin that he had committed before. Therefore he devised a thought against Adam, in which he endured and seduced Eve, but did not touch Adam. But I cursed ignorance. However, what I had blessed before I did not curse, and I did not curse man, nor the earth, nor other creatures, but I cursed man's evil results and his works. And I said to him, you are earth, dirt, and into earth from where I took you, you shall go. And I will not destroy you, but send you back to where I took you. Then I can again receive you at my second presence. And I blessed all my creations, both physical and spiritual, and Adam was 5.5 hours in paradise. And I blessed the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, on which he rested from all his works. So again, the way I'm looking at this, he had to kill Adam so his eternal state would not be sinful like Hasatan. So he had to send him back to the earth Amazingly, what gets purged in the end? Why is there a fire? Why is everything annihilated? May I submit to you that maybe, just maybe, it's because that dirt, this earth, has to be purged of sin and fire. We get put on the very altar, if you will, to be purged of all that sinful nature, of all that disobedience, of all that whatever was whatever, that we can come back and have maybe that same body. We know it's a renewed body, but that body, that dirt, that earth can be purged into forming something else. Thought, suggestion, submitting to you. We're going to stop here at chapter 33. We went pretty well, what is it, over an hour. I like to do 20, 30 minutes for time's sake, but I know, I mean, if you're going to read this at 20, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, and all that, you can obviously look into it, go over it, rewind it back up, pause it, all that. But for reading it, plus I like to put on other things for 20, 30 minutes at a time, the Now Network and things of that nature. But let's stop here at chapter 33. I think that's a good spot. It just makes so much sense to me. It fills those spots that, you know, how come? Why didn't he just make Adam? Why didn't he just say, okay, you sinned, say you're sorry, that's that, and bring repentance in the garden? But it's all a plan. It's all something that's going on. He knew the beginning from the ending from the beginning, just like that. To me, maybe it's just what I see. You know, let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? But I see there that he's seen Adam would not sin. Adam was his creation. Adam, to me, from what I read, from what I see, is he looked at Adam and said, okay, well, Adam sinned. I mean, think of this. This is a creator. He knows the beginning, the ending, the beginning. He knows you. He knows what sin we're going to commit. He knows. So with all that being said, he made Adam, well, Adam sinned. I mean, from that's what I get out of it. So within that, he made a way for all of us, right? So it may not seem in our commonwealth mind, in our worldly mind, it don't make a whole lot of sense, right? A lot of this, when I first started, even being in church for years, when I first started reading and praying, I really didn't understand the whole concept. But when you get to, he wanted us all redeemed, or he wanted us all to be able to be redeemed, right? He wanted a second chance, third chance, 27th, 100th, I mean, 70 times 7 chance for all of us. So that's where he made it. Maybe at that moment he looked down and he seen you. Maybe that moment he looked down and he seen me and he said, oh, Adam will be here for I'm just paraphrasing, putting it together, right? Just talking, if you will. My creation man is going to be by my side forever, but is he ever going to have a companion? Is it always going to be the same old, right? You ever seen somebody's married a couple times? It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? What is going on? What is happening? And it's not always that person. It's who they're picking. You're picking unrighteous, unfaithful. I mean, come on, when you go to a bar, how do you make someone, and I'm not saying they won't change. What I'm saying, if you go to a bar and pick a woman out of a bar or a man out of a bar, more than likely next week, next month, next year, they're wanting to be in that bar. There's a reason why they're there. And then it's not a good thing, because that same tendency, they want to pick up somebody else and take them on. You see what happens? Hope all that makes sense. But just out of happen chance, maybe right then and there, he looked and he seen and he knew it all, and maybe we should be careful with that too. Know it all, right? He knew it all, and he knew that we was going to sin. He knew that if he didn't do something different than just make Adam, which could have been an awesome ruler, and you know, I mean, to me that's just amazing that what he did and what he sent for us. So I think I see that so much in there that praise Yahweh, he sent his son Yeshua. So no matter what, but we have these instructions for people that don't believe in God, for people who don't believe in this, the people that go, well, what about this? To me, this is saying, I have made this. It's more than just close your eyes and dream up what you believe. Close your eyes and think of heaven, or what the church says, or what somebody else says. Why wouldn't he give us evidence? Why wouldn't he send a perfect person? Well, who's worthy? Well, not Eve. Well, not an imperfect person. But if you have Enoch, if you have Elijah, where's the book? Is there a book of Enoch? Is there a book of Elijah? Is there, you know what I'm saying? Is there more? What I'm saying. But what more better of a person? Because if Adam would have wrote it, that people would have said, well, but Adam sinned, right? But Adam did these bad things. We can literally say Enoch went, right? Enoch could literally do this because there was no sin in him. He committed no sin. So obviously he could have produced these books to tell us. Because if he sinned, well, he's a liar. I can't believe, I can't believe John. I can't believe Fred. I can't believe Henry. I sure can't believe Peter. I can't believe, you can't, you know what I'm saying? With men, you can say, just like scripture says, count all men liars. But Enoch, Elijah, well, wait a minute. This guy's went to perfection. Maybe what he says has a little bit of weight. Maybe what he's written down, and it's not him, right? It's not just Enoch saying, he's saying the angels by name told me these things. So we're going to stop there. May Yahweh bless you. May his kindness shine upon you. May he grant you shalom. We're going to start again later, chapter 33, and get into the rest of it. And we also don't forget 3 Enoch, the Hebrew book. And I'm really, really ready to read that one and get into there as well. Shalom. Yahweh bless you. Thank you for listening. If you want to know more, if you want to get into those deeper things, please look up those other in-between things and find out. Let's talk about them. Maybe we can do a video on that one day as well. Shalom. Yahweh bless you. Shalom. Shalom.